Tonight, a woman is recovering and her beloved Chihuahua dead after a fight last month at a park in Tempe. And we're told that it all began because of an unleashed pit bull. Fox 10's Ashley Rodriguez has more from Dwight Park.
In Dwight Park, residents tell me that it would have been full at this time. The weather is nice, people are getting off of work, but now it stands empty because word is getting out that more and more residents are choosing to walk their dogs off leash. Donna Steen was told by Tempe police to capture video when a dog is off leash in Dwight Park, a move that tends to irk the dog owner.
And she called me a Karen, which I'd never heard the term before.
What did you call me?
Other than the name that my cousins have.
Donna says the young boys of one family in particular would allow their pit bull to roam free. And while she reminded them of the rules, they ignored her, leading her to document it and do what Tempe police told her to.
What did you call me?
Oh, Karen, you're racist.
On November 19th, Donna's concern over dogs roaming free became a reality. She said she was walking two Chihuahuas and saw the pit unrestrained.
Okay, it's okay, Karen. It's okay. I'm putting you on Facebook Live so everybody knows who the fuck you are.
She says the family of the pit bull confronted her as she filmed, yelling obscenities and calling her slanderous names.
You keep recording minors. You're a pedophile.
She just came at me with both hands and just shoved me. I was flat. My head bounced on the asphalt. And it took me, I don't know how long, to get my wits together.
It was in that moment as she lay on the ground, she realized the pit had come for the Chihuahua.
Mia had Trixie in her jaws, and there's blood all over the place. And this is only 3 or 4 feet in front of me. And it happened just like that.
The Chihuahua's trachea was cut in half, her lungs were punctured, and bite wounds were all over the place. Trixie was put down.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Do you want to provide any comment because she isn't going after you guys? Do you want to say anything?
No, she didn't go after us.
I went to the door of the pit bull's owner to get their side of the story and was told once Tempe police were called, they were visited by animal control, but were not forced to make any changes.
Well, to the person of the dog, I apologize, and I didn't expect for the things to escalate how they did. But unfortunately, there's nothing I can do when there's minors also around.
The city prosecutor says it is considering misdemeanor charges for the 5 people involved, although they do not believe that there were any dogs off leash. That being said, they want to remind everyone it is a city code violation to have your dog off of leash in a public place. In Tempe, Ashley Rodriguez, Fox 10 News.
First on Fox, we begin with a story that shocked the community. Thieves armed to the teeth in the West Valley, stealing high-end vehicles parked outside while the owners were inside asleep.
4 men who were recently indicted are accused of being part of an auto theft ring with ties to Mexico. And today, Arizona DPS said at a news conference they've recovered 22 of the stolen vehicles. Fox 10's Lindsay Regas joins us live with more on that tonight.
John and Christina, these cars were either stolen in parking lots or driveways, and the value of the cars totaled $1.4 million. Now, we spoke with a local auto shop to find out what you can do to prevent this from happening.
They don't look like a traditional thief with a Slim Jim or breaking a window. It could be a very nicely dressed man or woman just walk into a car with a clone key and steal it right in broad daylight, and there would be nothing suspicious about it.
Matt Allen, owner of Virginia Auto Service, is referring to the recent string of car thefts in North Phoenix and Waddell that happened between September 23rd and November 1st.
This was a coordination effort of individuals using sophisticated means to steal high-end vehicles throughout the state of Arizona. These vehicles were transported into Mexico to continue the efforts and further goals of transnational criminal organizations.
I'm here to announce the grand jury indictment of 4 individuals. Their names are Jorge Aguilar, Andrew Reyes, Luis Rodriguez, and Douglas Zelaya.
This video in Waddell shows the thieves stealing a truck from a driveway armed with assault rifles.
This ring involves stealing vehicles, falsifying VIN numbers and license plates, and transporting the stolen vehicles across the border into Mexico.
The group used a key cloning device in order to steal where owners thought they were safest.
It could be in your apartment or condo, for example, and somebody with a strong enough device like this, with a strong enough antenna, could receive that.
DPS says Faraday bags can be used to stop criminals from accessing your key fob signal. A simple search on Amazon shows numerous options for Faraday bags. Some vendors sell pouches and bags, while others offer an enclosed box to block your key's RF signal.
I wouldn't keep your key fob like in a bowl by your front door. I'd keep it inside the house further in because how far the signal can go.
Here's another tip that gives you an extra layer of security.
You could go old school, go back to the club like we had in the 80s and 90s. Stuff like that would be the preventive, just not to be the easy target, I think is the best way.
Now, one last tip, although it won't stop your car from it being stolen, but put an AirTag inside your car or some sort of tracking device. That way, if it is stolen, police can find it much quicker. Reporting live, Lindsay Regas, Fox 10 News.
Well, we've got an update on this insane story of the 6 men charged in the assault on former NHL player Paul Bissonnette. We've learned that 3 of the men who were facing misdemeanor charges just had their cases, the misdemeanor cases, dismissed in court.
Fox 10's Ella McNamara has the court documents and is here to explain why and what happens next.
Well, guys, the entire case has gotten a lot of attention, and frankly, it's because they attacked Paul. He fought back. He has a huge following, not only from the NHL, but also from his podcast. People love him, not only in America, but also in Canada. Well, today, the Scottsdale Attorney's Office formally had 3 of the misdemeanor cases dismissed. But what it really means is that the Scottsdale City Attorney is going to be referring those 3 cases to the Maricopa County Attorney for further review to see if they should be charged with something more serious like a felony. So the 3 guys we're talking about are Danny Bradley, Henry Mesker, and John Carroll. You see the mugshots right here. There's only one man, Sean Daly, who so far has been charged with a felony in the attack that happened back on November 24th at Houston's restaurant in Scottsdale. And here are the documents that we just got from Scottsdale. And I also got the probable cause statement about this guy right here, Danny Bradley. A lot of people are calling him the green shirt guy. And the documents say that Bradley was the main aggressor and was the first to attack the victim, Paul Bissonnette, resulting in serious injury. The document also says that Paul was being held down at one point by another suspect as Bradley was punching him multiple times. Luckily, Bissonnette was able to get away. And that green shirt and mugshot is what an employee at Raven Country Club recognized immediately on the news. On Tuesday, we interviewed that young man named Carter, who says Danny Bradley attacked him about an hour earlier at the country club before the attack happened at the restaurant in Scottsdale. Carter, he got a black eye and his jaw was also hurt. He's just a young kid. Well, now we are still waiting on the surveillance video from Scottsdale from the restaurant, and we're also waiting to hear if the Maricopa County Attorney will upgrade those charges. Sean Daly, the guy that I mentioned, he's the only one who has been charged with a felony. He's supposed to appear in court next week, and we will let you know if he does. For now, yeah.
Really worse for these guys now with the misdemeanor charges moved.
Absolutely, yeah. So even though technically they've been dismissed, yes, this could absolutely get a lot worse. And honestly, John and Christina, because they have been dismissed and they could face a felony, I think honestly because, you know, the Maricopa County Attorney is looking at them, this never would have been found out if they hadn't gotten into a fight with Paul Bissonnette. Right. Because the dots never would have been connected.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay, Ellen, thank you.
9 executions are coming back to Arizona, and days after being dismissed from a death penalty review by Governor Katie Hobbs. A retired judge is now telling his side of the story. Fox 10's Nicole Christine sat down with David Duncan and joins us on what he found out about Arizona's lethal injections.
Well, Governor Hobbs paused executions shortly after being elected in 2023 and called for a comprehensive review of lethal injection. She tapped retired federal judge David Duncan for the task, but in a turn of events this past Tuesday, the governor dismissed the judge and claimed he went out of the bounds she set in that review. Tonight, Duncan's firing back at the governor's decision and says what he found out about Arizona's execution system is truly shocking.
I was simply asked to do 3 things. We had a history of botched executions in Arizona. Figure out why. Figure out if it can be done properly. Increase transparency.
Retired U.S. Magistrate Judge David Duncan says he spent nearly 2 years reviewing Arizona's use of lethal injections, leading to this conclusion.
Early on, I thought lethal injection would work. The more I learned about it, I learned that that was a false hope.
A draft of Duncan's findings was released this past week after Governor Katie Hobbs announced she had lost confidence in him. But as Duncan worked, Arizona prison officials conducted their own review, which found they were ready to carry out lethal injections. Duncan said the release of the draft and his dismissal from the review shocked him.
It was nothing I have seen in my nearly 40-year legal career, and certainly nothing I saw in the worst behavior of lawyers before me when I was a judge for 17 years. So I was very disappointed.
Hobbs said in her letter to Duncan she no longer had faith he could, quote, accomplish the goals of the executive order. Duncan wonders if the state simply did not like what he was telling them about their method of execution.
I can imagine maybe political winds changed. That could have happened. Maybe I was telling people what they didn't want to hear. I mean, one of the things the governor said in her letter is that she was satisfied with the investigation that Director Thornell had conducted internally with respect to the ability to proceed with an injection. The problem with that is that's an internal investigation. It's exactly the opposite of an independent review.
Duncan said he was denied access to how Arizona conducts executions. When the retired judge asked to see a dry run, he was told no because of concerns he would reveal, quote, identifying information about the executioners.
I would never reveal their confidentiality, and so I said that's preposterous, that's the reason that you won't let me talk to them and won't let me watch a dry run. And they said they did them 4 times a year, and I just wanted to see one so that I could make comments and observations. They said no.
Duncan also asked for tax documents after a doctor was paid $60,000 cash for 3 executions. Again, the state said he didn't need to know.
I then wrote the lawyer for the Department of Corrections and asked, do you have any records that contradict that you complied with the law and issued a 1099 for this payment? I received no response from the lawyer, from the Associate Director of the Department of Corrections. The next response that I received from the state of Arizona was the letter from Governor Hobbs firing me.
Duncan concludes in his draft, lethal injection is too flawed and suggested using firing squads instead. The governor said that wasn't an option. But the judge doubled down on his thoughts and wants to give the option to voters.
It is a very quick death, and it is one that is probably the most humane. It also has the least botch rate. The botch rate for lethal injection is 7%. It's 0.
Well, there is certainly so much to unpack here with both the dismissal of Duncan, the internal review by the ADCRR, and the overall announcement that executions by lethal injection can resume here in the Grand Canyon state. There are plenty of people who do not want the death penalty at all in Arizona. Death penalty alternatives for Arizona had this to say, quote, more than 2 years ago, the governor promised a thorough review of the state's deeply flawed death penalty process, acknowledging its systemic issues. Instead, she has walked back on that commitment, ignoring unresolved concerns about botched executions and the lack of proper oversight within the system. We have a lot more from our sit down with Duncan, as well as documents related to this case from both Duncan and state officials. All of that can be found on our website, fox10phoenix.com.
Well, this is a Fox 10 News Alert. We have a story coming in from New York City just shocking. The CEO of United Healthcare has just been shot to death in Midtown Manhattan. We have live pictures coming in from the scene of the killing right there in New York, 54th Street, I believe. Police sources telling the New York Post it happened this morning outside the Hilton Hotel. They say that Brian Thompson was shot multiple times. He was hit in the chest. They rushed him to the nearby Mount Sinai Hospital where he was pronounced dead. So sources say that a male suspect, a man who was masked, and according to witnesses who spoke to the Post, had been spotted milling around the area for several minutes before the shooting. He fired a number of shots from a distance of about 20 feet. No motive is known, but it did happen as United Health was getting ready for its annual Investor Day. Thompson, who had worked with United Healthcare for the last 20 years, took over the role of CEO 3 years ago. Previously served as the company's head of government programs, including Medicare and retirement. Now, the killer fled on a bicycle, actually one of the quicker ways to move through Midtown Manhattan traffic. In fact, let's go back to that live picture one more time. Can show you the area where the shooting happened and where he fled from. There is said to be obviously a wide manhunt underway right now. There is no word why someone would want one of the more well-known American business leaders dead. But again, this shocking story coming in this morning after being shot multiple times from about 20 feet away. The CEO of that well-known company is dead. They did cancel their investor conference day right away. And we'll stay on top of the story, you guys, if any new details emerge.
Right. Bizarre story this morning, Ron. Thanks.
The assault on Bissonnette happened on November 24th at 7:30 p.m. And when the mugshots of the guys who allegedly did it came out, an employee here at the Raven Golf Club recognized them immediately as the same group of men who attacked him that same night just an hour prior. Now, I reached out to Phoenix police. They are aware of the similarities between the two incidents and are investigating. Carter, an employee at the Raven Golf Club, says his jaw still hurts from getting assaulted on the night of November 24th.
He just runs at me, pins me up against the wall, and starts wailing on me.
He shared surveillance video of the attack committed by a man in a green shirt, a man who was drunk and refused to leave at closing time.
Like, I had a good black eye for a week, but my jaw's still sore, and I have like a big bruise on the top of my head, like under my hair.
Carter believes that man to be Danny Bradley, the same man in the same group that attacked former Arizona Coyotes hockey player Paul Bissonnette at Houston's restaurant in Scottsdale just an hour later.
Yeah, 100%.
And why do you say that?
I just recognized him immediately. I saw him a bunch of times that day.
Scottsdale police say it was around 7:30 that same night. Bissonnette saw a group of 6 drunk men harassing the bar staff for not serving them another drink. When he tried to stop the men, the group then became violent with him. He described the experience on his podcast, Spittin' Chicklets.
I grabbed the guy's arm. I said, listen, buddy, if you keep harassing and assaulting the staff here, I said, we're going to go outside and we're going to have some problems.
But unlike Carter, who just had to take it,
I mean, he's half foot taller than me, 150 pounds heavier than me.
Bissonnette, who made a name for himself as Biz Nasty, a fighter on the ice, was able to take them on, fighting back until police showed up and arrested them, the majority visiting from Fort Worth, Texas. You can see in these mugshots, it appears Biz Nasty got in some hits, and he was enraged when he heard they had gone after Carter, too.
Maybe I should have just sat down and waited for my traditional salad from Houston's and minded my own business. But what if that Danny Bradley cocks his right and ends up feeding one of those managers at Houston that same right hook that he did at the golf club? What if one of those guys drop and next thing you know, they got a conky, or even worse, they hit their head and they're on a breathing tube?
Carter says he reported the assault to Phoenix police, who say they are investigating the 2 cases independently and have not confirmed the suspects are the same in both incidents. Meanwhile, there's no guarantee that Texas men charged with misdemeanors and one with a felony will return to Arizona for their court date. They were released with no bail.
I just think that they should be punished for what they did. Like, people can't just go around beating people up and getting away with it.
It's got to feel kind of good to know that he met his match later on that night in a hockey player, right?
Yeah, it's definitely nice that they went and hit the wrong person later that night.
Both Carter and Bissonnette don't understand why these men were released without bail. They're all from Texas. Now, one of them, Sean Daly, did appear before a judge here and was told that for his next court date, he has to appear in person. And he responded to the judge by saying he'd try. We'll see what happens. In Phoenix, Ashley Rodriguez, Fox 10 News.
An 8-year-old boy crushed by a statue at the Arizona Biltmore has died. Firefighters say the concrete statue fell on the boy's head on Wednesday in the courtyard of the property near 24th Street and Missouri. The child died on Thanksgiving at the hospital. Police are calling this a tragic accident and say that no foul play is suspected. 2 15-year-old boys are dead in an apparent murder-suicide in the Tonto Basin. Gila County Sheriff's deputies say that the boys were with a group of 7 young people late Saturday night in a remote area when one of the 15-year-olds shot the other and then turned the gun on himself. Deputies say all but one of the people at that gathering had been drinking. It's not clear what led to the shooting. The sheriff's office says it will not be releasing the names of the boys who died.
Thanks for joining us at 9. We begin tonight with an archaeological find that could rewrite Arizona history. A cannon from the expedition of Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, dating back nearly 500 years. This firearm could be the oldest ever found in the United States.
But unlike Coronado, this Arizona archaeologist made a discovery that's truly golden. Fox 10's Nicole Christine has the exclusive story.
The year was 1540. Francisco Vázquez de Coronado would lead 400 conquistadors in the New World. His mission, find the rumored 7 cities of gold. Coronado's expedition headed north from Mexico. 4 months later, they would cross into Arizona and New Mexico. But they didn't find gold in Cibola. Only Native Americans who had called this land their home for thousands of years. Coronado returned to Mexico 2 years later in disgrace. The year is 2020, and Dr. Denise Seymour has been searching for artifacts related to Coronado's expedition for 2 decades.
I think all archaeologists who are out in the field hope they'd run across evidence of Coronado.
She works at a dozen different sites between Nogales and the Gila River, and it's at one of those sites that she makes an incredible discovery.
The first firearm, the first Coronado firearm, the earliest known firearm in the continental U.S., and we don't know for sure regarding the whole continent, but it looks like it's the earliest one known on the continental landmass.
The firearm measures 42 inches and weighs 40 pounds.
They would rest this on a rampart or wall, and this would help absorb the recoil. You can see damage on it from carrying it on the side of a mule or something.
Dr. Seymour says the implications of finding this artifact are vast.
And then we stopped, and I said, we need to stop and just take this moment in, because this is so important. We will never find anything as important and unique in our careers. And it does indicate that it was made on this continent as opposed to the old world. So it is, it's made here, and so it's also the only gun known that was made here. It feels heavier than 40 pounds, doesn't it? You know, when I pick it up, I have to go like this because I can't do that.
She says the wall gun shows signs of settlement in the Southwest that predates most European settlements.
It's earlier than Roanoke, it's earlier than Jamestown, it's even earlier than San Agustin.
And perhaps most importantly, a new understanding of the interactions between Coronado and the Native Americans.
Some of the things that we hear about that happened with Columbus and with the conquistadors in central Mexico, the brutality, I knew some of that occurred up here, but I had no idea that the full range of things occurred up here. The fact that Coronado had, and his whole expedition through the whole 1539 to 1542 period had so much interaction with the Otham, whose descendants live here today. And so this really enhances and changes their history. And so for me, that's the most important thing. And for them, that's the most important thing.
Wow.
Oh, she was fantastic,
Really
as you can tell. And she has so much knowledge. She shared so many things about the implications for this. So we're going to put our entire interview with her up on our website so that people can go and watch it, because that was just a slice of what she had to share.
Of all the implications of this find, what struck you the most?
I think that what she was saying, and I would agree with it, is this understanding of how these conquistadors and the Spaniards were interacting with the Native Americans at the time. And she did say, and you'll hear this in her full interview, that there were plenty of Spaniards that were moral and that were trying to split away from the violence and the brutality that they were seeing. So she said even 500 years ago, there were people who were fighting for morals and ethics in the middle of these battles. And so she said, you know, we look at our history and we look at how it repeats itself, and this is just another example. And some of that is theorizing.
So is Coronado a hero or a villain in this story?
I think she thinks he's complicated.
Yeah.
I think that she thinks that he, you know, did what he thought he had to do, but I think that there was just so much violence and so much horrific actions that were taken against the Native Americans, which we know in this state all too well. So.
Yeah.
Fascinating, though.
Wow, Nicole, thank you. Looking forward to that full interview, by the way.
It's amazing that it's in the dirt and they find it, but everybody's holding it now with gloves.
Oh, yes. We have to be very careful. Oh, yes. We have to be very careful. And, of course, we respect all of that because this is a brilliant piece of history that she just came
incredible.
across.
You got to hold it.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Amazing find.
Thank you.
A man has been sentenced for killing his roommate, a Chandler woman, back in 2020. Timothy Sullivan will spend 31.5 years in prison for the crime. Sullivan was convicted in the killing of Amy Legans in September, and in 2020, Legans' remains were found dismembered at the bottom of the Salt River near Central Avenue after she had been reported missing earlier that month. Police say Sullivan admitted to killing Legans after she began yelling at him and he snapped. Today in court, the family pleaded for a maximum sentence before handing down the sentence. The judge acknowledged the harm Sullivan caused to Amy's family, saying it was immeasurable.
Well, we've got a...
This is a monster who will continue to do harm if his sentencing is anything but the maximum.
Not only did you abandon or conceal, but you basically mutilated Amy and desecrated her body and treated her like trash.
For more on this case, you can check out our crime files at fox10phoenix.com.